The president held his first rally in months on Saturday in an attempt to project political strength as his administration faces a series of crises. Instead, it was a flop. And I should say, I get that he wanted to go out and see people. I've been in an attic for 3 months. I miss not having guests. Zoom is great. It's not face-to-face, but I deal with it because there isn't a better option. It's not like there's a magic door behind me that'll send me a guest if I say their name 3 times. And Ethan Hawke, Ethan Hawke, Ethan Hawke, right? I mean, that would be stupid, but also, I mean, how cool would that be? With that said, I haven't totally hated the me time. It's definitely allowed me to get in touch with myself in a healthy way. And if a guest was here, they'd probably want to go on and on about whatever project they had. And, I don't need that. Still, I don't think that would be the case with Ethan Hawke. I mean, the Ethan Hawke does go on a bit, but he's Ethan Hawke. He's one of my all-time favorite actors. Love me some Ethan Hawke. Of course, knowing Ethan, he'd probably have some sort of psychopath man-in-the-woods beard right now and wouldn't be that camera ready. Yeah, all things considered, it's good not having Ethan Hawke right now. Anyway, I know it was a long time ago, and I probably shouldn't even say this. I thought in Dead Poets when he stood on the desk and said, "Oh, Captain, my Captain," it was just a little, show-offy.
It was a character!
Anyway, it's time for a closer look. At this moment, protesters across the country are demanding an end to institutional racism and police brutality. The coronavirus pandemic is spiking in more than 20 states. Our election infrastructure is falling apart, and millions of Americans are camping out for hours just to file for unemployment amid a historic economic crisis. I mean, look at this. This is insane. Normally, you only see people camped out on the sidewalk like this when there's a new iPhone or Harry Styles is hosting SNL, an episode, by the way, that I couldn't get tickets to, which is crazy because I had a bit of a run there. This is truly barbaric. If you're a billion-dollar corporation, you can just call up the government, get a loan you don't even need. But if you lose your job thanks to a pandemic the government failed to stop, you have to line up in the heat for hours like you're waiting for a porta potty at Ozfest. And as Ozzy himself would say, our country is going off the rails on a crazy train. Yes. Anyway, I just hope it's not too late to learn how to love and forget how to hate. That was for older brothers born between 63 and 71. The point is, we're in a moment of acute national crisis, thanks in large part to the malign negligence of this taxidermied business husk. Wow. How'd the sales trip go, Willy Loman? I hope Biff didn't wander in on you and a strange woman. That would send him in a long tailspin. What happened to you? You look like you just coached the Knicks to a 50-point loss. You should be standing next to Jack Lemmon begging for the Glengarry leads. We should never have to see the president in such a pathetic state. It's embarrassing. The president is supposed to project confidence and strength. Trump, on the other hand, looks like a drunk wedding guest shuffling back to the Marriott. Or was it a Hyatt? This is like when you stay up past your bedtime and catch a glimpse of your dad coming home late from work, totally plastered. Somehow, this is the perfect image to sum up the Trump presidency. Now we just have to change the presidential seal to a drunk eagle snoozing in a Barcalounger with a beer in one hand and a remote control in the other. And I know, eagles' hands are called claws. I made a mistake, but it's tempting. Or maybe they're called talons. Oh, I should have looked this up. But as tempting as it may be to think that Trump somehow created all the problems our country is facing, he did not. He certainly made them worse and in many cases profited from them, but the structural inequities and institutional failures we're seeing right now long predated him. They were created in part by guys like Johnny Bolton over here, the ex-National Security Advisor who refused to testify in Trump's impeachment and is now hawking a book called Mustache Rides Again. Oh wait, I think it's called The Trash Behind the Stash. No wait, you know what guys? I think it's called Bolton's Butt Ton of Bulldog. Anyway, you can find it on Amazon under the Please Light Your Money on Fire Instead section. John Bolton is an unrepentant warmonger who has helped usher in some of the worst calamities of the last 2 decades and who epitomizes our era of venal, self-serving sociopaths burning everything down and then cashing in as they slink away. But other than that, he's a great guy. Last night, Bolton was on ABC trying to sell his book about his time in the Trump White House. Trump, a man, let's not forget, he voted for and then lobbied to get a job with.
I don't think he's fit for office. I don't think he has the competence to carry out the job.
You supported Donald Trump during the 2016 election. You watched his first 15 months in office. What did you think of the job he was doing up to that point?
I think I made a mistake.
No, I don't think he did. I don't think he made a mistake. I think you're a remora. You know those little fish that swim alongside sharks and eat whatever they miss? That's what all these Trump White House supporting cast members are. And then when their bellies are full, they swim out of the White House and write a book called Damn, That Shark Was Crazy. I think I made a mistake is not how you talk about enthusiastically supporting and working for a racist authoritarian who's trampling our democracy for his own self-interest. That's what you say when you get the Domino's order and realize it has peppers instead of pepperoni. Oh, damn it. I think I made a mistake. I meant to get pizza, but instead I ordered Domino's. Bolton didn't make a mistake. He saw Trump in 2016 and throughout the first half of his presidency promising to rip up the Iran deal and to kill the families of terrorists and banning of Muslims, and he thought he could use Trump to get what he wanted. It only backfired when he realized Trump's like a tiger in a circus act. He starts out friendly, but one wrong move and he will lunge for your face. People like Bolton are a big part of the reason we're in this mess in the first place. And on top of that, the structural inequities in our sham democracy ensure that a party with a disastrous 20-year record of governance over the course of 2 historically awful presidents can keep winning elections. They don't need to be popular if voter suppression and an antiquated electoral college system can keep them in power. And sure enough, the Trump team is already sending signals that they plan to interfere with the actual administration of the election. This weekend, for example, the Attorney General Bill Barr repeated a series of obvious lies about mail-in voting, which many state officials, including Republicans, have turned to as a safe alternative during the pandemic. Barr claimed falsely that mail-in ballots somehow open the floodgates to fraud.
Well, there's a big discussion right now about mail-in voting. Hillary Clinton said it's fine, it's fair.
Well, it absolutely opens the floodgates to fraud. Those things are delivered into mailboxes. They can be taken out. There's questions about whether or not it even denies a secret ballot, because a lot of the states have you signing the outside of the envelope. So the person who opens the envelope will know how people voted. There's no, right now, a foreign country could print up tens of thousands of counterfeit ballots and be very hard for us to detect which was the right and which was the wrong ballot. So I think it can upset and undercut the confidence in the integrity of our elections.
You know what upsets confidence in the integrity of our elections? People having to stand in line to vote like they're waiting to take pictures with the mall Santa on December 23rd. Of course, if Bill Barr was in charge, they'd have to line up on August 8th. Second, none of what you said is true. You can't just print up fake mail ballots and send them in. You know they still check to make sure they're from registered voters, right? It's not like you can just write on a piece of paper, I vote for Joe Exotic, and send it to the Board of Elections. Although honestly, at this rate, I'm desperate enough to try it. Hey, I think he's learned his lesson. I saw some real growth from Joe. And then this morning, Trump himself tweeted, because of mail-in ballots, 2020 will be the most rigged election in our nation's history. They're trying to cheat by disrupting the actual administration of the election, and that's because they're so worried that if voters get to vote fairly, he won't win. Donald Trump is now and has always been a historically unpopular president. He's just been able to mask his unpopularity and soothe his ego with large crowds at his mosh pit / group therapy sessions, which is why his rally in Tulsa on Saturday, his first in months, was planned as a big show of political strength. Never mind the fact that Tulsa is a coronavirus hotspot with spiking numbers that have alarmed local health officials. Trump disregarded that just to make himself feel better. Beforehand, Trump aides told CNN that the rally wasn't just about politics, it was about something far more important. Giving Trump the adulation he craves and re-energizing him after weeks spent wallowing in sagging poll numbers and critical media coverage. I guarantee you after Saturday, if everything goes well, he's going to be in a much better mood. You know what else is good for that? Prozac. You just slip some into his hamburger. You know, the way you give pills to a dog. Or slap a label on the bottle that says hydroxychloroquine. This stuff cures everything. Think about that. The president held an indoor rally at a coronavirus hotspot, putting people's lives at risk just to make himself feel better. Can't we just get that truck back to the White House lawn and let him honk the horn a few times? Do you feel better, Mr. President? I am feeling a little bit better. At this rate, he should be doing his rallies on a fainting couch while a doctor takes notes. Still, there you go. The president's aides said Saturday's rally would put him in a much better mood. And clearly, Trump was looking forward to it because he spent all week bragging about the number of people who had RSVP'd.
They have a pretty new, magnificent arena, as you probably have heard, and we're getting exact numbers out, but we're either close to or over 1 million people wanting to go. We have a 22,000 seat arena, but I think we're going to also take the convention hall next door, and that's going to hold 40,000, so we'll have 22,000 plus 40,000, which would mean that we'll have over 900,000 people that won't be able to go, but Hopefully they'll be watching. But it's an amazing, nobody's ever heard of numbers like this.
You gotta love how Trump thinks of success is a situation in which 90% of his supporters get screwed. So we have a baked potato bar, the fixings for everyone who doesn't get in. Just the 2 potatoes though, so you don't show up early. Nobody's ever heard numbers like this. You know what number of people have heard? 6,200, the actual number of people who showed up according to the fire marshal. And that fire marshal was probably the only person in Tulsa who had a good night. He was like, oh, this is great. If there's a fire, we can get everybody out of here in like 30 seconds. Trump's team kept ramping up expectations. His campaign manager, Brad Parscale, bragged that 1 million people had RSVP'd and that they'd have a total of close to 100,000. You guys sure you want to call your shot like that? You're like a basketball player giving a pregame press conference about how many points he scored. I just want to thank God and my teammates for supporting me. It wasn't easy to score 50 in a game, but I did it. All right, I'm going to go warm up. Achilles is pretty tight. Although my favorite Trump prediction has to be this one.
And we expect to have, it's like a record-setting crowd. We've never had an empty seat, and we certainly won't in Oklahoma.
We certainly won't have an empty seat in Oklahoma. It's too perfect. This is like if Babe Ruth had pointed to center field and then stepped into the box and fouled one off his ankle. Oh no, I think I broke it. Oh, can you edit out? Oh, can you edit out the part where I pointed? We're live. Oh. So the president banked not only his political comeback, but his mood on a big show of force in Tulsa. And then, this happened.
President Trump's first campaign rally in more than 100 days drew controversy and a smaller than expected crowd. The upper decks of the arena there in Tulsa, Oklahoma were largely empty.
There were plenty of empty seats in the 19,000 capacity BOK Center.
But in the end, the president was a bit of a bust in Tulsa. The campaign quickly dismantling one venue, that other venue, about 1/3 full. Tulsa's fire department saying about 6,200 people showed up in an arena that held 19,000 for the president.
Wow, I've seen less empty seats at an improv show. And let's be honest, Trump's rallies are basically an improv show where he gives himself his own suggestion. Could I have the name of a famous person? I heard Hillary. The arena wasn't even 1/3 full. Trump staked his political fortunes and his ego in this rally, and it was such a flop, they even had to cancel a planned second speech to what they thought would be an overflow crowd outside before Trump had landed. Crews were literally breaking down the stage because so few people were there. Wow, he's the president of the United States and they're treating him like the least popular band at Coachella. Sorry, bro, I guess everybody went over to see Beyonce. You can keep the lanyards if you want. What kind of music do you guys do? Rage rap. And Trump's performance was just as lackluster as attendance. You'd think at a moment like this, the president might want to offer soothing words about the state of the nation and the various crises we face. Instead, Trump spent 1 of every 8 minutes in Tulsa complaining about coverage of his West Point speech. Specifically, he complained about the coverage of the way he tiptoed down a ramp like a toddler on ice skates and the way he drank water.
So then my wife said, well, it wasn't only the ramp. Did you have water? So what happens is I said, what does it have to do with water? They said, you couldn't lift your hand up to your mouth with water. She said, well, I know what you did. You had on a very good red tie, and I don't want to get water on the tie. And I don't want to drink much. So I lifted up the water. I see we have a little glass of water. Where the hell did this water come from? So I put it up to my lip, and then I say, because I don't want it, just in case. And they gave me another disease. They gave me another disease.
Seriously, has a president's base ever set a lower bar? Woo! That arm works! That arm works! The crowd cheered. The president drinking water with one hand the way NASA cheered when they landed a rover on Mars. That's not supposed to be impressive. Good news, he's drinking water with one hand is something a doctor would say to you about a loved one who was recently hit on the head by a falling can of paint. He's regained motor function in his right arm. Unfortunately, he's still having trouble with the ramp. Although the biggest lie in that story might be the idea that he had a conversation with his wife. And even if he did, what a horrible conversation. Her first question to you was, did you have water? It's not a question you asked a president or a loved one. That's a question you ask a sick cat. The president staked his political fortunes on a rally that turned out to be a dud amid a series of mounting crises that have deflated his already historically bad poll numbers. It's a reminder that this president is deeply unpopular and his only hope of getting reelected is by scaring people and undermining the integrity of the election itself. And when he and his campaign look back on their decision to brag so much about this rally in advance, I bet they'll say to themselves,
I think I made a mistake.
This has been A Closer Look. As New York works hard to reopen under Phase 2, remember that we are still a city in crisis, and City Harvest has been stepping up to meet the increased need. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wash your hands. We love you.